Governor Pritzker in Illinois is putting his people in danger every day by going against us and not working with us.
I'll tell you, the Democrats are not for open borders. I think that, we are not. Look, you don't have a country if you don't have a border.
It's Governor J.B. Pritzker talking yesterday in front of a group of people in Chicago about a variety of things, including responding to Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, who earlier this week said that Pritzker is not working with the federal department to go after the worst of the worst. It is Illinois in Focus Daily with you each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop, the editor of Illinois at the Center Square. Get the latest headlines at the Center Square for more. And we've got the ongoing issue of the National Guard and whether or not the Trump administration is going to be able to use the National Guard for public safety purposes, especially when it comes to the issue of ICE enforcement and public safety around that. Now, of course, we had the No Kings rally on Saturday across the country, including tens of thousands of people in Chicago that rallied against President Donald Trump. And a whole host of speeches made. Some were, fair criticism. Others may have been what some consider over-the-top criticism. And in particular, you've got one speech that the Department of Homeland Security highlighted and then posted a heavily produced video alongside of it, and this is from their X account. We'll pull this up. It says, during the No Kings rally in Chicago this previous weekend, violent rioters called for the cold-blooded murder of ICE agents. This rioter and his statements have been referred to the DOJ. There is no place in America for psychotic incitements of unlawful violence against ICE or CBP. To those who threaten violence against us, we will hunt you down, we will find you, and justice will be served. So here is that video that they shared.
You gotta grab a gun! We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system! These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out!
All right, today we're gonna talk about how we can find out and how much we can find out. The more you f*** around, the more you're gonna find out. All sirens, heavy fat, pop, I got clicks of white, ice in my right, nice, and I do fight.
You gotta grab a gun.
So, obviously, there's some interesting criticism that can be made about the federal agency using such imagery, and you will hear a lot about that, I'm sure, if that continues. But that is the Department of Homeland Security's response to this particular statement. And some people online have found out who that person may have been. So clearly that we may see some more develop from that. But ultimately, yesterday, you had Governor J.B. Pritzker responding to Kristi Noem. And here's what Noem said. We heard this yesterday when she stopped down in Sarasota, Florida, yesterday rather Monday, to talk about safety, public safety, federal agencies' actions, about immigration. So here is Noem from Monday.
Here in Sarasota, it's been fantastic. Here in Florida, it's been amazing. But you go into other communities and other states, and many times those governors are political. Those leaders in those towns, Portland's a great example of the mayor who chooses to play politics instead of keeping his citizens safe. Governor Pritzker in Illinois is putting his people in danger every day by going against us and not working with us to make sure that we're detaining individuals who have criminal charges against them or have been convicted and then re-releasing them out on the streets.
And she went on to talk about how every crime impacts victims differently, because one question was, well, what do you say to those who say that the majority of those who've been arrested weren't detained for violent crimes, those who are being detained for immigration infractions. And she said, listen, everybody who's a crime victim is impacted by that crime, regardless of how minor that crime is. So clearly a lot of back and forth continues between the federal agency and a state like Illinois. So Governor J.B. Pritzker was asked yesterday in front of the Economic Club of Chicago about Kristi Noem's comments, and the governor said that he's not an open border Democrat, and he doesn't think Democrats are for open borders.
Let's keep them in. What is ICE doing? please go after the worst of the worst. That is not what they're doing. The president said he was going after the worst of the worst. ICE says they're going after the worst of the worst. You think that kid who got zip tied, the little kids who were zip tied at that South Shore building, you think those are the worst of the worst? The woman that came out of the city of Waukegan City Hall, she's a U.S. citizen who did nothing wrong. And there are plenty of examples of that. That is what my objection is with what they're doing. My objection is not having an immigration enforcement mechanism. My objection is the way they're doing it. They are breaking all of the protocols and rules that normally apply to police in this country. And we're just sitting back and allowing it to happen is not right.
So the governor explaining that he's not an open border politician, but you've got the ongoing question of immigration enforcement and just how exactly that is supposed to happen in the United States, especially when a state like Illinois has the Trust Act and a Way Forward Act. And the governor says that he's not for open borders.
I'll tell you that Democrats are not for open borders. I think that, we are not. Look, you don't have a country if you don't have a border. So we have borders for reasons, and there's nothing wrong with having a border. And what's wrong is that we haven't had comprehensive immigration reform that would allow somebody who, and I think we all know somebody like this, who is in this country, however they ended up in the country, undocumented, been here for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, maybe raised a family here, has held a job and paid their taxes, and have followed the law their entire time here. And they're your neighbors, they're your friends, they're people who serve you when you go into a restaurant, or they're running a place themselves. These are people that I believe that these are the exact people that we should be inviting into the country. They're already here. Why can't we have a system that says those people can stay?
So the governor advocating for some kind of immigration reform, and he's talked about that in the past, but what that looks like clearly is still up in the air. He says that there were bipartisan efforts in the past to do this, never advanced. It seems like immigration reform is always a political football that is used every 2 years in every presidential election about we're going to bring about immigration reform, but it hasn't happened. And you've got the law as it is in place right now, where it's illegal and an offense that can be not just detainable, but lead to the deportation of somebody if they're in here illegally. And that's the law of the land. And you've got enforcement of that under the Trump administration increasing after the Biden administration had practically open borders. I mean, it wasn't just people coming through ports of entry. It was people crossing outside of ports of entry and just being allowed to come on in. Then you had the whole issue of non-citizens crossing the border into border communities that were flooded with tens of thousands of people within a week, and the community's only about 1,500 people, so you could see the resources were stretched way thin. So people in Texas sent non-citizens to places like Illinois. Why? Because Illinois is a sanctuary state with policies in place that prohibit local law enforcement from cooperating with federal immigration officials. And some at the State House are thinking of expanding the state's sanctuary policies to, for instance, make sure that campus police are considered law enforcement that can't cooperate with immigration officials, to possibly say that you can't have immigration enforcement at county courthouses. A Cook County judge recently ruled that and ordered that for the Cook County Jail, but could that possibly be something that's spread out across Illinois? Sanctuary policies could come up during fall veto session whenever legislators return next week to Springfield. Governor J.B. Pritzker last week was asked about the possibility of expanding the state's sanctuary policies, and here's what he had to say.
Well, I know the legislature is looking at that, and I certainly have heard of a few bills that might move. But look, there are limits to what a state can do. There just are. And this situation really hasn't arisen since the Civil War. So I find it, challenging. It is a challenge that constitutionally difficult to overcome, but I do think the courts are assisting us, and private attorneys that are coming in and filing suit, like the TRO that limits what ICE is doing, are assisting us, and we may be able to make tweaks to the law to protect people better in the state. Although, as you know, I think we've done a pretty good job of Trump-proofing the state as best we could.
So the governor's saying that there could be some tweaks. Let's see what ultimately happens. You had the House Speaker last week say that they're going to be talking with attorneys to see exactly if the language is appropriate. Republicans, though, say that the state sanctuary policies need to be reversed. Here is Homer Glenn Republican Patrick Sheehan.
The sanctuary policies, I think, need to be absolutely repealed. The Trust Act needs to be repealed. We've seen the misdirection of the Chicago Police Department and local law enforcement. They're not sure what to do. When you take away the instinct from a police officer, you've completely broken how law enforcement operates. We're the ones that hold the line. When someone calls law enforcement for help, we go. We just go. And when you have an officer second guess themselves on whether their order is illegal or not, that puts not only the officer in danger, but that puts communities and its citizens in danger as well.
How's this going to play out? We'll be watching next week at the Illinois General Assembly's fall veto session. Final 3 days that they have scheduled this year. So before the holidays, they're going to come back and have 3 days of high-flying activity. Could there be conversations about expanding the state's sanctuary policies? We'll be watching. So I think that's why you need to be sure to tune in and subscribe each and every weekday morning for Illinois in Focus Daily live. Here, either in my mobile studio or at the home studio or at the Capitol. We'll do what we can to keep you guys updated, but go to thecentersquare.com and sign up for the newsletter and get this podcast wherever you get podcasts. It is Illinois in Focus Daily.